I'll leave the show to you, and I'll come back like 20 minutes later, and we'll have a Q&A session.
Sure.
With Anders Weiland and Chordate Medical. The show is yours.
Thank you, Lars. Thank you. All right. Good morning, everyone, and very welcome to this brief presentation of Chordate Medical, a company that was registered in 2005, but got into actual actions about 10 years ago. The company's foundation is based on inventions and research by Professor Jan-Erik Juuto, ENT, or ear, nose and throat professor at Karolinska Institute in Stockholm. He's no longer active in the company, but remains a minor shareholder. So let's see what's happened since last time. Well, a lot, and I will go through this. You may or may not know, but we released the Q2 report on Monday. So these are old financial figures, just to give you a sense of what we're doing financially. We are still in burn rate state. We do have some revenue and hopefully growing. Severely affected by the pandemic situation, of course. We had a good start last year early, but that was halted by the pandemic effect. But we do plot a little bit of sales. Cash flow remains predominantly negative. We're still in research with one very costly study and another one that is still carrying some costs. That is going to seep out at the end of this year, though. So the Q2 should it be, not Q3. Wrong here, on Monday, and also noting that we have an upcoming strike on the warrants T07 that has the potential to bring the company approximately 36 million Swedish crowns before costs. So that is something that we're looking forward to, and these are traded also, as well as the company, on the SME list on NGM. So a few highlights. The biggest thing and the most important thing is that we secured a CE mark for the migraine indication in May. This was a very unlikely event, maybe a surprise, but we actually managed to do that. And the reason why this is special is that it was done based on interim data. We made an interim analysis in 2019 on this study on the first 53 patients, which is about 40% of the patient population in that study. And that data was apparently, we don't really know because we don't have insight in it, we're blinded to it, but this was enough and apparently impressive enough to award us the CE mark. So a year or more ahead of our planning, we received the CE mark. This have rocketed us into launching the migraine indication. Standing on our heels a little bit in the beginning, of course, we weren't really prepared for this. So we are now in full swing in rolling this out in our markets where we are active. The current status of the study, which is still important, but no longer important for the CE mark, is that now the recruitment of the final patients continue in Finland and Germany, 9 clinics. We do expect that the last patients will start their treatments during this quarter. Then there is a 2-month study period. So this is what we're shooting for now. The pandemic effect is still there. We can still suffer drawbacks. We can still be stopped on some of these clinics. Running studies is a not necessary activity at a healthcare institution or hospital. So when they tighten their regulations on the pandemic, the first thing that goes are study activities. So you don't want to have patients or people in the hospital that doesn't necessarily need to be there. and that is of course affecting us. But the distribution channels are now engaged fully in doing this, both on the rhinitis, the stuffed nose side, which is our first indication, and also on the chronic migraine situation or indication. The Saudi Arabia distributor have managed to get approval from the 3 testing hospitals that the healthcare ministry of that country ordered. So we will see how they will roll out on national code, meaning that anyone will get reimbursement in Saudi Arabia for this treatment, which is great. There are about 415 national hospitals owned by the Ministry of Health. Country is a quite sizable country of 34 million people. In Israel, we focus on the neurology side, on the migraine, and they are now in full swing of trying to procure the product approval based on the CE mark, so that was important. We'll see how fast that goes. And Italy, which is our most active market, they were in full swing with the rhinitis before the pandemic stopped, and now they are on their way of introducing the migraine also. They ordered their first migraine installations before the summer or vacation period, which are now installed. So we're looking forward to see how this can evolve. We have also installed 3 migraine systems in Sweden with our collaborating clinics in Solna here in Stockholm, Malmö and Gothenburg. And they have treated their first patients, which is also very exciting. We have also lately published news about our joint venture agreement with Nanos Medical in Shanghai in China. This was a process that we started mid-2018, and then it has been quite quiet. I know a lot of shareholders have commented on this, that we don't give any news about it. Truth to be told is that there hasn't been a lot of news to tell until now. And now we can then tell that they have basically relaunched the registration process. Now it's projected to be faster, 15 to 18 months perhaps. The reason for the still period has been several. There is a great effect of the pandemic situation also in China, as you can imagine. Also their clinical studies or clinical evaluations has been stopped, which is necessary for this registration. There is a new legislation that was put in place at the turn of this year. Before that, it was basically impossible to submit any new registration applications. And then finally, the new generation of our controller or treatment unit prevented us from continuing with the old one because you can't convert it. In Europe, if you have a CE mark or a registered product and then you have the exact same technology but you repackage it in a new little box, then you can just transfer that. That is not possible in China. So we had to wait until we had launched a new electronic box, which was a little bit of a drawback, but now we're on the roll. All right, so a little bit about chronic migraine. What is that? Well, it is severe. Migraine itself is bad. I guess, hands up, that we all, maybe some of us have had migraine or know someone that has migraine, so you have a good idea about what it is. You're basically incapacitated for a day or two. If you're a chronic migrainer, you have headaches 15 days per month, and you have 8 migraine episodes, and this is of course devastating. Approximately 2% of the population have chronic migraine, which is a very, very high number. Around 15% of the population have migraine itself, which is quite a stunning number, that too. So about 140 million patients in the world. The cost for chronic migraine in Sweden is in average 120,000 crowns per patient a year. And that is divided up in 20% healthcare and 80% productivity loss, because you can't be at your job or you're not good at your job, so you lose a lot of productivity. So it also so that migraine is a female condition predominantly, twice as common among women as among men. And as with all female dominant health conditions, they are usually overlooked and undertreated. That is the case with migraine as well, if you look across the world. The current treatment and options for treating are drugs predominantly. They all are stained by low response rates and fading effect. You have to change medication over time, and you're constantly chasing the next thing. And that creates an open market where we can play, basically. Botox treatment for migraine, 31 plus sticks in the head and neck. 4 times a year is one way of doing it. Has to be done in clinic. Costs a lot if you pay private. That is also a good field for us as an alternative. Therefore, this is a very fast-growing business for the pharma side, plus 10% growth, about $8-9 billion per year in revenue. Botox is not small either, about $700 million. Doesn't grow as much though. On the medtech side, there are a lot of neuromodulation technologies, also sizable number, also very much growing, and also, which is most important, heavily invested in. And the big medtech companies are picking up projects to add to their portfolios, which is an opportunity for us. So sum up the kinetic oscillation stimulation, the COS treatment, which is the name of our treatment, is that it doesn't depend on drugs or surgery. It has a very, very low, almost invisible risk profile. There are no adverse events in all our studies. Therefore safe. It also demonstrates in both indications a long-term effect, so it is a preventive treatment which you can take to prevent your condition to cause trouble in the near future at least. It's also very simple and easy to learn. This is extra important for clinics because it doesn't require in the regular treatment after that the patients have been prescribed with this treatment, it doesn't require a physician or doctor's involvement. It can definitely and is usually performed by trained nurses. And that reduced the cost for the clinic by over half. So that is an important aspect. If you compare that, for instance, to Botox, it has to be delivered by a physician if you read the regulation. There is a lot of off-label activities with Botox though, but that is the smaller part. Our technology is also patented and has a very good IPR portfolio surrounding it. 70 patents are approved in 24 countries in 9 different patent families, covering different aspects of the technology. And we have still a few applications open. So if you look at the business model here, and I received a lot of questions about this, shareholders that wonder how to calculate this. If you look at the machine itself, full 8 hours or 7 hours, you should take lunch also. Say about 45 minutes per treatment. It actually takes 20 minutes, but you need to switch patients and so forth. You sum up that over a year of 210 working days to about 2,000 treatments per machine or installation. So that is the foundation of it. It's us that produces this, so it's our own control, even though we use subcontractors for all production outside the house. And we also sell the code, which is our real business. The electronic code is necessary, which you need to feed into the machine in order to make the machine do a treatment. So our business model is electronically protected by a code. We send the catheters, the disposable part, along with selling the codes, basically, if you wish, free of charge. But we really charge for the codes. And therefore, this is a pay-per-use system. So you have to pay every time you use it. And this is controlled by the machine. It's a pretty good protection. It's hard to hack this, basically. Of course, everything can be hacked today, we know that. But it's not so common among hospitals to hack systems. But this is important, how we have constructed the business model. It is electronically protected. If you look at the rhinitis patient, he or she typically needs 1 to 2 treatments per year. A migraine treatment patient, though, needs several more. 4 to 6 is the guess. Could be more than that. Even though the price is the same per treatment, already there the migraine aspect is more important for us and more valuable. Many times more valuable per patient. This all sums up to a repeat order model. This is a volume business. We charge for the starter kit and the installation of the machine, of course, but in the long run, it's the repetitive business that we actually live off. We are selling the razors, but we live off the razor blades, if you like. Okay. The rhinitis side, it's already selling since a few years. It has about 200 million patients around the world. So this is probably larger, but this is what the faculty estimates this to be. And our technology is positioned between common nasal sprays, decongestive nasal sprays that you take, and some people take them too much and too long. We actually have a anecdotal picture where we are able to help people that got stuck on the decongestive sprays. Together with the clever ENT doctor and this treatment, you can actually learn to get off the decongestive sprays with help of this treatment. But the common indication is the non-allergic, non-infectious rhinitis, or stuffed nose, as it's called. So that is the most common treatment, sprays. And then in the far end of the spectrum, and nothing between, you have quite severe surgical procedures, carving, burning, treating with heat, treating with radio frequency. Those treatments are effective for quite a few patients. They are very costly. They contain risks, like all procedures, surgical procedures does. But the effect fades out after 2-3 years, according to literature. And you are not supposed to repeat them more than once. And then you're stuck and back to normal again. So we position this technology right between there. This is a new tool that you can offer the patient to get remedy for your condition. If you look at the business value of this, the total addressable market is about 4.5 million Swedish crowns per million population. But that, of course, is a hypothetical figure, but this is the maximum addressable market. We go to business with 2 adaptive market models, or go-to-market models. One is the traditional business-to-business to clinic through distributors. That's the most common. That's what we do in Europe and Saudi Arabia. And then, of course, we have the Shanghai joint venture company, which is, for us, an opportunistic investment. We are not involved. We will not spend resources on it, but it's a way for us to utilize the 8 Chinese patents over time. And we'll see how that will materialize over time now. Heavily delayed compared to when we started that JV company, but now they are on the roll again, so that's good. The strategy going forward here is to continue to build the proof of concept in market, which is what we're doing right now. In order for us to achieve our strategic goals of exiting the company for our shareholders eventually, we have the IPR portfolio, we have the scientific proof package, and we will have proof of concept in market, meaning demonstrated that we are capable of selling this with a readable result in some few, maybe smaller, but defined markets. That is very important. To do that, finalizing the migraine study is important. Registration in Israel right now, short term, is important, and also the product registration in China is important. Finally, I would like to just demonstrate a little bit of a view from long-term larger shareholders. Isaac Brandberg company, here represented by Magnus Brandberg, holds about 12% of the company right now, and this is how Magnus answers on the reason behind investing in this kind of technology and the kind of owner view they have on these kind of holdings. I find this highly interesting and impressive as well, and this is exactly the shareholder view that this kind of projects needs. We enjoy now about 10 times as many shareholders as exactly a year ago, which is very good. We are very happy for that. 6,000 visible shareholders, probably slightly less than 7,000 if you really look into all the insurance companies' holdings and capital insurances. And we had about 10 less a year ago. So this is very good. We're very happy for that. But this also comes with a backside, and that is, of course, volatility on the share that sometimes is not good for the long-term perspective. Our largest 10 shareholders, with their stability and their view, is of course as counterbalance to this, which is good for our share. We would wish that we can have more of our shareholders sharing that view and perspective of this investment, of course. So that's about 20 some minutes, and I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anders.
Thank you, Lars.
Very exciting.
Yes.
You started out and started selling, is it called rhinitis? Rhinitis.
Yes.
You started selling rhinitis equipment.
Chronic rhinitis, yes.
Yes, chronic rhinitis equipment. And then the migraine treatment came to be. How did that evolve?
That was way earlier than the start of sales. A lot of the early rhinitis patients that came to Professor Yuto and other doctors involved in this and reported their feedback on the rhinitis treatments. Also added that, oh, by the way, I don't know where my migraine is gone. And that number increased over time. So eventually it became more of a fact that there is something here. They surely get better in their stuffed nose, most of them. But too many also reported that, I don't know what happened with my migraine. It's much less or fewer episodes. So they started adding that up and decided to go into finding out. So that's basically a side finding, which is not uncommon in this world.
Yes. It's just another way to prove the old saying that the best strategies are always found looking back. But in this case,
Of
it's
course.
a good looking back.
Yes, yes, of course.
Because the migraine business is so much larger.
It is larger, it's richer, no doubt, but it's also more responsive, which is important. This is a defined market picture that is well populated, also well invested. And even though the number of patients of chronic migraine and chronic rhinitis are approximately the same in the world, and even though migraine is undertreated in the world, according to reports, this enjoy a lot of attention and also a lot of drive from the patients. It's a much more defined condition and it's a much more defined market, and therefore it's easier to operate.
Isn't there also... Okay, now I'm speculating a bit for you to answer, but in my heydays, I suffered some self-inflicted headache, typically Sunday mornings. Would that be?
Okay.
Or Saturday mornings.
Okay.
So that would be...
Thank you for the information.
Ipren, Alvedon, Coca-Cola, and actually also blowing my nose. But what I'm getting at is when you have a severe headache, you think of nothing else than to get rid of it. You cannot be nice, you cannot talk, you cannot do anything. So if I were to be very mean to your rhinitis treatment, I would say, okay, unless it's severe, this is a nice to have treatment, but it seems to also, apart from being bigger, if you have migraine, it's, in my mind, someone with migraine would be jump on any opportunity to relieve this symptom.
Yes, and that is true, also historically true. Migraine, or half a brain, as it's sometimes called, is actually noted early on in early scriptures, probably one of the first conditions that were medically treated way back in the old Greeks' time and earlier. So having this condition, it constitutes a total decapitation of your day. You're out, basically. So yes, it is a severe condition. Even though even if you don't have chronic migraine, even if you just have migraine, it takes you off the track, basically. So yeah, these patients are aggressively and constantly seeking remedy. And when half of them are not happy with the treatment, according to a late American study, they are on the search for the other thing. And also joined by their physicians and doctors that always look for the next thing for their patients. This opens up, which is unusual for the medical or medtech field, this opens up for a responsiveness in the market that is not common in our field of life science.
So the rhinitis treatment and the migraine treatment, they are the same kinetic oscillation stimulation. It's the same process for both.
Technology-wise, exactly the same. There are slightly different settings on the migraine with different frequencies, and slightly different frequency and amplitudes of the vibration. These are tuned into the best effect, but from an outside looking view, it's exactly the same.
Okay.
And also the treatment length. The frequency of treatments over a year is, however, very different.
Yes. And this COOS treatment equipment, does that have to be in a hospital, or can it be in a nail salon or a dental clinic or a cosmetic surgery clinic? I mean, there are many clinics, skin treatment.
Yeah, I'll stretch it to doctor's office. Yeah, you need to have some sort of readiness and healthcare capabilities for whatever reasons. So we wouldn't suggest this to be outside of a medical setting. And also the registration suggests that this needs to be in a medical setting.
A question from the audience here.
You stated on a number of occasions that you want to sell this company to a bigger player. Now, Reimbursement should then be an important question. But you have a bit of a problem, at least in the rhinitis field, because you failed to show better result in the study above placebo. So how does the insurance companies look upon reimbursement for treatment, both in the rhinitis and in the migraine fields?
It varies from market to market. What is going on in Saudi Arabia is reimbursement. That's a national code for reimbursing everything that's owned by the Ministry of Health. So that's a total coverage over the country. The other and that is rhinitis. And we also announced that the private sector healthcare in Saudi Arabia, about 120, 30 hospitals, have issued a reimbursement code on the private side. Secondly, we had one, we are still having that study, the latest study on rhinitis that still goes on, that last year was stopped for inclusion because we had inconclusive results from an interim analysis. That's not likely to reach the primary endpoint. But there are several other studies behind us that have demonstrated significant results. Lately recalculated by University of Amsterdam, that was published in May last year. So I wouldn't agree that we have failed to demonstrate, but we have one study that haven't demonstrated, and that is usually the picture. Some does, some don't. So you get a mixed picture perhaps, but predominantly we have solid evidence. It is important in reimbursement discussions with the insurance companies, of course, to have a package of studies that gives a good picture. So yes, we would have wished for this study, which was a heavy investment, to have a good result, but it didn't, for various reasons that are yet unknown until we have the final results and we can analyze. But it's an important question. We focus on private pay for now, out of pocket, in order to build a proof of concept, which will gradually grow into reaching reimbursement levels in various places. But they can be local. In Sweden, typically it's a region that issue reimbursement, so that's in fact 21 places in Sweden that does that. In some other countries it's national, like UK, Saudi. Israel is different again, much easier. So it varies drastically how you get reimbursement. We have codes for rhinitis in Italy as well, that has been in place for quite some time in regions. So this is building gradually. Now, larger companies are very good at...
to get one or two more questions.
Sure. Larger companies are good at getting reimbursement in place. All right, go ahead.
Anyone else in the audience? Because time flies. I will then ask you the final question, and that's, you talked about hacking. There's also reverse engineering, actually building the same type of machine. So do you protect your equipment and your method with intellectual property patents?
Yes.
How does it look?
Yeah, they are, like I said, nine different patent families protecting different aspects of the technology. A patent is only as good as your ability to defend it. So anyone can hack a patent or copy, for sure, and it depends on our muscles how we can defend that.
Yes.
Right.
I'll insert a very quick investor tip here. I have, in one of my many previous lives, been a tech startup guy, and we had a great patent on the 36 first clauses, but to get the patent we had to add number 37. That ruined the patent. So how inclusive are your patents, Anders?
It's only, you can only tell when it's really tested in court. That's the first time you really know if you have a good patent or not.
Okay. Anders Weiland, Chordate Medical. Thank you for visiting ProHearings.